Melissa, if you want to start the introduction.
Yeah, we can go ahead and do that. I was gonna give it a couple more minutes. I usually
Okay.
do, because I feel like after the start time, people will like slowly trickle in a little bit. So we'll give them a couple more.
All right. I'm recording now, so whenever you want to start, you can.
Yep. Jonathan, you go ahead and let me know when you're ready to go.
I'm ready whenever.
Okay, cool. So we've got some people, it looks like, in the Zoom, and I've also got eyes on the Facebook Live. So thank you all for coming and welcome. My name is Melissa George. I am the Development Specialist at International Institute in St. Louis. And I have here Jonathan Moxie, which is the head brewer at Rockwell Beer. And we are going to be talking about some delicious beers today from Rockwell, as well as some food pairings that go really well with it. So thank you all for helping us keep the festival alive right now. We also want to thank our sponsors who, you know, even though we can't meet in person, we can still celebrate like we do every year. I also want to invite you all to sign up for our e-newsletter. We are going to be at the end of the weekend drawing 4 names from that to determine who gets to win one of 4 gift cards to some really good local international restaurants. So I really encourage you to do that. You can do that on our Festival of Nations website, which you've probably been to if you're already here in the Zoom call. I will also share the link to that in the chat in a little bit. And you can go through Connect to sign up for our e-newsletter. If you want to register for more events, you can go to the Discover tab. You can also do some really cool things on the website, like learn about a ton of other really great restaurants we have submitted in the St. Louis area. You can learn about other people's heritages and traditions, as well as share your own if you have any interesting stories you want to tell us. And you can learn about world religions and other things as well. So let's go ahead and get started. If anybody has any questions or comments about the beers, especially if you got them ahead of time, which we encourage you to do so, you're welcome to share those with us, and I will be keeping that close eye on that. So I'll go ahead and hand it off to Jonathan, and we'll get started.
Hey, my name is Jonathan Moxie, and as Melissa said, I'm the head brewer here at Rockwell Beer Company. Thrilled to be part of the Festival of Nations. It's one of my absolute favorite events in St. Louis every year. If you all are unfamiliar with the brewery, we're 1320 South Vandevetter in St. Louis, and we're open both for drive-through pickup as well as dine-in in our tasting room and on our patio. We also just have some walk-up seating available on the parking lot, and so we'd love to host you all for a fun and safe, socially distanced evening. So come on out and see us. We're open 7 days a week. Today, the first beer that we have up is Passing Clouds. It's a Belgian-style wit beer. This is actually the first recipe that I wrote for Rockwell Beer Company. You know, it's a nice, flavorful, low alcohol session beer. It's based on a style that was resurrected by Pierre Celis in the 70s. It was all but extinct and has kind of become a staple in a number of American breweries. Just to have something that's you know, approachable, but also like just really delicious, pairs well with a lot of different foods. We use 3 different types of wheat in this beer. Some soft red winter wheat, some unmalted white wheat, as well as some flake wheat to just give it a nice, light, fluffy mouthfeel. And then it's traditionally spiced with a blend of Indian green coriander and bitter Curacao orange peel. And we also add in grains of paradise, which is also called alligator pepper, which gives this nice, it's a bit more dynamic than a black pepper. You bite into one of those little kernels, it's almost kind of like putting your tongue on a 9-volt battery, but it imparts a wonderful spice to the beer. And then just to kind of layer the orange flavor in there as well, we use crystal hops from Michigan, from Hophead Farms, and they are just really bright and juicy orange flavor. So a lot of flavor, but still light on the palate and low in alcohol at 4.6 ABV.
Awesome. So full disclosure, I'm not really a beer drinker, but I had some conversations with Jonathan leading up to this to help us come up with some really good foods from around the world that you can pair with some of these beers. So Passing Clouds, I would recommend to go really well with some of the Asian spice families, as well as getting down more into African flavors. So tandoori chicken, some tagine to go with that. And then on the dessert side, because we have to have dessert with everything nowadays, you know, mirroring the cloud idea there and having something sugary with like gulab jamun. I love that stuff. It's like pancake honey deliciousness in a little dough ball, as well as picarones. I recommend that as well.
Yeah, I think that all goes great. You know, like the warming spices that you find in a lot of the curries goes really well with a wit beer. Next up, we have SVEN, which is a Kolsch, which is the beer that you find in Köln or Cologne, Germany. SVEN is not a traditional name that you would expect with a German beer, but it's named for a German football announcer who is Sven Pistor. He's the announcer for the German Bundesliga and was he was a study abroad student in high school here in St. Louis, a friend with some of our investors and owners. And so we made a beer to kind of celebrate him and his hometown. So this is a Kolsch it's a hybrid beer. It's fermented with an ale yeast, so it starts off warmer, but then it is lagered, so kept cold for a long period of time. And what that does is it really allows the beer to mellow and round out, giving a smooth, clean profile. We use two different types of Pilsner malt in this, which gives it kind of a sweet and soft graininess. And then we hop it with Supersatzer, which is it's a newer type of hop grown again at Hophead Farms in Michigan. And it is a version of the classic Czech Satzer hops, you know, like one of the great hops of the European continent. And as the name Supersatzer would suggest, it's just a little bit more dialed up. So it's those European hop flavors, but Americanized and just a little bit more intense. So this is a very good, you know, versatile beer for drinking with food or on its own. It's clean and refreshing, and also still like it's not going to weigh you down at 5%.
Yeah, and so it looks like Mark in the Zoom chat is actually having some SVEN now and says it is awesome. So Mark recommends the SVEN. I also recommend that it goes with some of the European grilled flavors. Kind of will complement that fresh taste. So you get some doner kebab from Turkey. Absolutely delicious. If you haven't tried it, there's plenty of places around St. Louis that serve that, as well as shawarma. Chicken adobo, I think, would actually also go really well with that. Some of those flavors that go in there would complement it pretty nicely. And then I also put for desserts here more of the nutty and fulfilling flavors that are kind of sweet. So something like baklava, you can get a lot of that around St. Louis as well. And then also Ali, which is from Egypt, and it's kind of like a bread pudding that's got some more savory flavors in that as well.
Yeah, that sounds great.
There we go.
And so next, what we have is Standby, which is what I'm drinking right now. And it's another one of our 3 year-round beers. It's a hoppy Pilsner. kind of borrows from a couple of different traditions, like obviously Germany, but also Italy. And so Italy, much like the United States, has a relatively new brewing tradition in the grand scheme of things, and much like the U.S., they're kind of mutts. Like we all, we've taken different elements from various regional brewing traditions and taken those and made them into something that's all our own. And so with that, we have a very crisp, dry, unfiltered Keller beer style Pilsner. We dry hop it with Hallertau Tradition and Herzbrucker, which gives it a really bright herbal note with a little bit of like lemon and pepper in there as well. This is the type of beer that is meant to be, just like drank in a session, a number of them right after another. It has enough carbonation to it that is going to lift the fat off the palate and kind of revitalize your taste buds and get you ready for the next bite. So, like whether it's a burger or, something else that's fatty or spicy, it's going to go well with a number of things.
So Christina asks in the chat, what does it mean to be unfiltered?
Sure, that's a great question. So like there's a number of different ways that you can filter a beer, whether that's like running it through a plate filter, where it's a series of like cellulose membranes, or running it through a centrifuge where you're spinning it up and getting all of the solids to kind of like form into a cone and be left behind. Or if you're using something like diatomaceous earth, where you're running it through, essentially volcanic ash, and pulling out different things like yeast particles or little bits of hop. And what that's going to leave you with is a brilliantly clear beer, which is great in a number of respects. I like to get to that point through time, because I find that for my palate, some of those things give a certain inexplicable quality to the beer, where you're just losing a lot of character if you strip them out artificially. I mean, I do like a number of filtered beers, but for this beer itself, I want it unfiltered because that yeast character you can't mimic any other way.
Yep. So I think yeah, that's the only one for now. So I put for this one to go really well with it are some rice dishes, specifically some things like plov, the Azerbaijani version, which comes with, a lot of savory flavors like dates again, as well as sushi from Japan. I'm sure many of us have had that as well. So you could enjoy the standby with the sushi. And then for desserts, I went for some more calm, nutty flavors to play off of that. So almond rounds from China, just, shortbread cookies with some almonds in that, as well as carnes de gazelle, which translates to gazelle horns, but are not actual gazelle horns. Apparently they are delicious and sweet and wrapped in dough. Okay.
So Crisp Chinos is started off last year as a collaboration that I did with my friend Zach Kinney, who's one of the brewer owners at Kings County Brewers Collective in Brooklyn. And we grew up home brewing together while we were living in New York, and have remained quite close. And so whenever Zach comes to St. Louis to brew with me, we tried to answer the existential question of, if this beer was a type of pant, what type of pant would it be? And so this beer is a dry hop jasmine rice lager, and we thought it was a pair of crisp chinos. So it's kind of a riff on a beer that they do at KCBC called Strap Hanger, which is another rice lager. And to do something like this in St. Louis, where there's a brewery that's quite large and noted and known for their rice lagers, that uses, like AB uses rice to make a very smooth, dry, and accessible beer. We chose different rice varieties that would give that dryness and crispness, but also would provide a flavor contribution. So we're using the jasmine rice as well as brown rice in there. That makes up about 25% of the grist. So you get a nice rice flavor, but there's still plenty of barley in there to round it out, give it a little bit of body while it's still being very dry. Much like Passing Clouds, we also use crystal hops from Michigan, which give it that nice orange character, as well as the German Sapphire hops, which is a newer hop in respect to German hop growing. It has a lot of lime and herbal notes in there, and yeah, so we use those in the kettle, and then we also dry hop the beer with that. So it has it's about a pound per barrel, and it's not like an overwhelming hop like a double IPA or something like that. It's more just like this bright flavor and aroma contribution. It goes really well with all the things listed here. I also love it with sushi, and I also like it with a lime in there. And I'm not afraid to tell anybody that.
Yeah, exactly. With the limes, the second I read that in the description, I was thinking things like pho and ceviche. I also put moule frites in there from Belgium. It's a mussel dish. It's really delicious, and things like that. You can always use a little citrus to go in there to kind of give it a little pizzazz. And then for desserts, I put in there some chilled snacks like some sendal or saffron ice cream. I think those would complement the crispness a little bit, as it might get a little overwhelming, but that's my guess. But specifically the pho and the ceviche, I think, are the top choices for that on me.
Yeah, those sound fantastic.
Now this one is the one that sounds the most delicious to me as a non-beer drinker. I really like the rich flavors.
Yeah, so KAZIMIERZ is a Baltic style porter. So it's it's a bit of a hybrid between like the porters that were brewed in England in the 1800s, as well as some of the imperial stouts that would have been sent to the courts of Tsarist Russia. And it is traditionally it's a lager. It's brewed with lager yeast, and it is lagered. But it is far different than the standby or standby or CHINOS that we talked about earlier. Even though it's fermented with the same yeast that we use for standby, it's sizable at 9.2%. It's one of the stronger beers that we regularly offer. Most of our beers are 5% or lower, just because we like beers that are made for drinking, for people that want to come in and have 3 or 4 and still be able to carry on a cogent conversation and get themselves home in a reasonable manner. KAZIMIERZ is more for something that you're savoring after dinner. There's quite a bit of malt that goes in there. We pack the mash tun full, and then it goes through a long cold fermentation. So even though it is quite strong, you're not getting any of those higher alcohol flavors that heat. It's lagering for about a month and a half in stainless, and then we'll lager it for at least another 2 months in one of our American oak lager foeders that has a chilling fin in there. So it's resting in the oak at about 40 degrees, and that's for those fooders are made by Fooder Crafters here in St. Louis. They're the only domestic producers of fooders. We've been very fortunate to do a lot of work with them. They make a beautiful product, and they're getting brewers from all over the world coming to St. Louis to get these American oak fooders to ferment their beer in. So KAZIMIERZ is named after General KAZIMIERZ Pulaski, who is Polish and fought in the Polish Revolution, and then came over and fought in the American Revolution as well, and essentially invented the American cavalry. And so we do that in a nod to him. So it's a big beer it's got a lot of layers, chocolate, burnt brown sugar, caramel char. There's kind of a smoothing vanilla from the oak, and yeah, it's really delicious. It goes well with food that has some char or some Maillard reactions there, that browning flavor, as well as dessert or on its own.
Yeah, Lashana says in the chat that it looks like something good that would go with caramely types of foods. And then I put on here, so I've had some porters that I did like, and something that I had it with that I really liked was haggis, and I think it would go well with other lamb kind of meals, such as kabuli palo from Afghanistan. And then to mirror Lashana's point, and then Janice also says that it's great that we're pairing these with desserts because they are the highlight of meals. Definitely put some sweet and fluffy things in here like flan, sticky toffee pudding. I think those kind of, really rich flavors will complement the porter really well, along with something like creme brulee that's got that caramel flavor really thick in there. Maddie says in the chat, is anyone else getting soy sauce vibes? Jonathan, do you have anything to say with soy sauce?
Yeah, and that is definitely something that comes up with darker beers, especially with a little bit of age on them. Like this, I just 2 weeks ago I brewed this year's batch of that. As heavier, darker beers age, you will get some of those savory notes that develop, especially with oxidation over time. Yeah, that's all part of aging beer. Hopefully it's at a positive level.
Yeah. Maddie's wondering where I found haggis in the US. So I actually first tried it on a fortunate trip to Scotland, where my family's from. And then in the US, I learned recently in St. Louis, we have a restaurant called Scottish Arms that has some pretty good haggis there as well. That's where I had the porter with it. So I actually don't know if we have Scottish Arms in our whole database now of restaurants. I'll have to add that. If anybody has any questions in the Zoom chat or on the Facebook feed, feel free to ask them. I've got my...
How did we lose you?
Yeah, I think she froze up. But by the way, I have a question for you. Do you have any special beers producing for this fall?
Yeah, I'm so happy that you asked about that, because I love talking about more and new beers. So coming up soon, we have Foederfest, which is it's our traditional German style fest beer, and it is almost ready to be packaged. We'll be packaging that probably, if not this coming week, then early the week after. And so, and I see the what is the Fooder question, and I'll get right into that in a second. So the Foederfest is our interpretation of a traditional German fest beer, which is the more modern version of what they would drink during Oktoberfest. So with Oktoberfest, there's typically two different types of beer that you talk about, and one is the Märzen which is a darker, like amber lager, using a lot of Munich and sometimes Vienna malts. It's typically brewed in the spring and then lagered all through the summer and then ready for Oktoberfest in September. You get a lot of really bready notes in that. With the fest beer, it's a paler, drier, often hoppier version of that, more like an Imperial Helles, and that's kind of the direction that we took. And so we started that one off in stainless as well, and we lagered it in the same foeder that we use for KAZIMIERZ. A foeder, think of it as a great big wine barrel. So typically most wine barrels are, anywhere from say 50 to 120 gallons, and this one is 30 barrels. So it's or 930 gallons. And what that does is it imparts some of the oak character to the beer, but because the surface to volume ratio is that much lower, you're not getting a huge oak impact with the foeder that you would with an individual barrel. And the lager foeder has these chiller fins in there, so we're running glycol through the fins, which keeping the beer inside the oak foeders cold down at lagering temperature, even though the ambient temperature of the room is much warmer. I didn't see, there was a question about cider, I think.
Oh, yeah.
And
I'm sorry, there was two questions here, but yeah, do you produce a cider is the first one?
yes, and we do produce a cider. It's called Modern Chemistry, and we do that with Fuji and Yellow Delicious apples from Schwartz Orchard in Southern Illinois. And we ferment that with a type of quake yeast, which is been isolated from the farmhouse brewing tradition in Norway. And so it gives a lot of bright citrus esters in addition to the apple flavor. It finishes quite tart and dry. And it is not currently on draft. We have a batch in the fermenter now, which will probably be ready to go in another, say, 3 weeks probably. But yes, we do a cider.
Okay, another question is, do you ever team up with another brewery to produce something special?
Yeah, I mean, Chris CHINOS, we've done a number of really fun collaborations. We did a beer called Pure Mood with 18th Street Brewery out of Gary, Indiana. And that was another hoppy lager using some newer German hop varieties, as well as did a beer called Fairpoint that's currently available at the brewery, and that's a dry hop Belgian saison with Brettanomyces that we did with Hopewell Brewing out of Chicago. What's really fun about that one is it's 100% local grain. So we worked with Gateway Custom Malt out of Montgomery City, Missouri. It's a local maltster that is malting raw grain from Missouri as well as Southern Illinois. And that just allows us to give another element of place in our beer, and it came out fantastic. And it's, like I said, it's currently available at the brewery. And there have been some other collaborations that we have coming up. One is with Little Fish, which is another friend of mine. It's a brewery in Athens, Ohio, and they forage some sumac, some wild sumac, and as they also brought their house yeast and bacteria culture to blend with ours. That beer is currently bottle conditioning and hopefully will be ready in the next month or two. And then we've done some collaborations with Fifth Hammer Brewing out of Long Island City, New York, a few times.
Okay, well, I have a couple questions myself. Do you do the flights? The beer?
We don't do flights. We do half pours. And that's something that, especially, as we have these COVID protocols in place, we encourage customers to pay as they go, just to kind of cut down on personal contact. But yeah, we definitely do half pours of anything. If you want just a taste of something, like, I'm sure they'd be happy to accommodate that. But we do not do flights as they're traditionally recommended.
Okay, and my other question is, where can we purchase your beer?
That's a great question. Thank you. The best place is always at the brewery, or at least the place that I prefer. Like, you'll find the widest selection there. But we are available in a number of great places around town for off-premise accounts. We have we're in a number of Schnucks, especially here in the city. You can find us at Wine and Cheese Place and Randall's, Craft Beer Cellar. I'm going to, forgive me if any of you aren't here, work for any of those places I've forgotten. We're also on in a number of bars and restaurants, but yeah, definitely come check us out at the brewery. We have stuff to go, and then we also have things that are exclusively available at the brewery that you won't find anywhere else.
Okay, wonderful. Is there any other questions that we have from the attendees? Please, you can input that in the chat box. Oh, how did you come up with your name for Rockwell?
So our one of our founders, Andy Hilly, who I brewed with at Perennial Arts and Ales before I moved over here to help open up Rockwell, was living in Chicago on Rockwell Street, and he called his homebrew Club Rockwell, and so here we are. Now we have a brewery called Rockwell Beer Company.
I think that understands why you came up with the Pulaski beer, because I know that they have a large Polish population, and Illinois celebrates Kazimierz Pulaski's birthday.
There's that, and also one of our other owners is married to a wonderful Polish woman, and whenever they found out that we were brewing a beer from the Baltic region, we decided to do a notable poll.
Okay. We got any pumpkin beer or seasonal beer, and also why the llama, and they love everything.
Well, thank you very much for the love. We certainly appreciate that. The seasonal beer we're doing, we'll have the fest beer for Oktoberfest. We don't do a pumpkin beer. We do other darker beers, heavier beers that will be available in the winter months. We'll have the return of Moonbase, which is our robust porter, which is slightly lower in alcohol than KAZIMIERZ, but also a bit roastier and hoppier. And then we have an English style barley wine, and the Static, which is our dark lager, which is influenced by the dark lagers of Germany and the Czech Republic. And the llama comes again from Andy. He and his then high school girlfriend and now a wife used to we're in Spanish class in high school, and they had there was a little stuffed llama on the desk named Fabricius, and they would throw it at one another. And now we have it on our flag.
And so I'm assuming that you don't have any pumpkin beer then this
Oh,
season?
I'm sorry. Yeah, we do not have any pumpkin.
Okay, I think that's, any other comments from the attendees? It looks like that's everything. Jonathan, I'd like to thank you for taking your time out of your busy weekend to be with us.
Well, thank you all for having me. Like I said at the beginning, this is always one of my favorite events here in St. Louis. So, even in the weirdness of 2020, I'm thrilled to be a part of it, and I hope that you all enjoy the beer and explore some good food and beer pairings, and come see us at Rockwell.
Okay,
Cheers.
I want people to check out Rockwell at rockwellbeer.com, and then also to do those perfect food pairing with the beer. Check out our website and the taste page, and you can get a list of all the international restaurants that we have listed there. And if you have your favorites are missing, please add them. If you want to learn how you can support the International Institute, you can visit our website at iistl.org or email Melissa George at georgem@iistl.org. And thank you all again for joining us to learn about some great drinks. And then join us tonight at 6 p.m. while we get some entertainment scheduled with Deidre and the Rough Pro Band. And happy festival and enjoy the rest of your weekend. Thank you, everyone.
Thanks. See y'all.
Bye.